I know to a lot of people, making your own homemade sourdough pizza seems like it's a really complicated thing. In reality, it's just a series of really simple steps. And if you just follow them in order, it's almost impossible to get it wrong. So today, I'm going to show you the individual steps to make your very own homemade sourdough pizza. Okay, we have all the ingredients we need to do just the dough itself. But before we get started, I'd like to give a shout out to the YouTube commenter who said that I'm an absolute bush pig with no knowledge. You have no idea how happy that comment made my mother-in-law. I still haven't decided how I feel about it, but that's okay. So we start off with bread flour. Bread flour is important for forming the gluten structure of the dough. It's really what makes the difference between like bread versus a sugar cookie. So we have 700 grams of bread flour. You want to do everything by weight. We also have 440 grams of whole milk. You can use skim or even water, that doesn't matter really. This is just the way I do it. And we have 200 grams of sourdough starch. You want to do dry ingredients first, always. So 700 grams, this is enough to do 2 dough balls. It's just easier for the mixer and for me to do 2 at a time. You end up with a better final quality product. We add 440 grams of whole milk. And roughly 200 grams of sourdough starch. None of this has to be exact. If you get it within a few grams, that will be good enough. But definitely do dry ingredients first. You're gonna love yourself so much if you do it. And then you're gonna wanna give it a quick stir. Just anything that's wet, make it dry, and anything that's dry, make it wet. This is gonna make the mixing process and the kneading process so much easier. Once it's good and consistent, we can go ahead, put it right into the mixer and put the dough hook on. All right, so we did a little pre-mix. We just wanna make sure all of the wets are dries and all the dries are wets. Toss it into the KitchenAid, and you wanna put it on medium-low for 5 minutes. And you shouldn't have to touch it. It should do its own thing. So now that our 5 minutes is up, turn the mixer off, and we're gonna go ahead and cover this, because what's gonna happen, we're gonna let it sit for a half hour. It's gonna make mixing so much easier. And cover it up. We don't want it to harden, so that's why you gotta seal it, because otherwise you'll end up with a weird crust, like a film on top of it. We don't want that. Just cover it up, and we're gonna wait 30 minutes before we do anything else with it. So it's been resting a little bit longer than a half an hour. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna start actually kneading the dough. So we're gonna start by adding 2 teaspoons of garlic salt. That matters. You don't wanna put 2 teaspoons of regular salt in there because you'll end up killing your sourdough. So 2 teaspoons of garlic salt, and then we're gonna start mixing on low medium. We're gonna do this for about 15 minutes. So one of your tells that you're done mixing the dough that it's kneaded enough, couple of things. One is that it's not so sticky anymore, but 2 is something called the window pane test. So what you want to do is grab the dough, or a chunk of it at least. This one isn't too sticky, but it's still pretty sticky. But the other thing is, you want to get it to a point where you could see light through it without ripping it. So this one, I can see a little bit of light through it, but it really wants to rip. So we're gonna give this a little bit longer. We're gonna knead it more. So we're only at about 12 minutes. So we're gonna give it another 5 to 10. So we ended up kneading this a little bit longer. We kneaded it for about 30 minutes. So it's a fairly smooth, good, healthy dough, and it passed the window pane test, so that means it's ready to go. That means it has a good gluten structure, which really just means it's gonna be able to hold the bubbles in for when we go to bake it, because If it's not trapping the bubbles, you're not going to end up with fluffy dough. So like I said earlier, this is going to make 2 dough balls. And so one of the things we can do is we can put it in a container and just put it in the fridge. I like to leave them in the fridge for a couple days so I get a really prominent sourdough flavor. That's the way I like to do it. But you can do it within 12 hours if you want. You could start the proofing process immediately. So what I do is I form them into a ball so we have a little bit of surface tension on the outside. Then I like to seal up the bottom. Nothing too fancy, and that dough ball is ready to go. So you want to spray the bottom of the container. Dough ball. Then spray the ball. And if you do it this way, you don't proof it now, you proof it later. You can keep this in the fridge for 4 or 5 days and you'll have delicious sourdough flavor and it'll be good to go whenever you need it. You just take it out of the fridge 12 hours before you use it and it'll be plenty proofed by the time you go to bake it. Now, if you want to do a deep dish, it's a similar process. The proofing time doesn't really change. You just put it in the deep dish first. I like to proof them in this rather than rolling them out like a regular dough. So you just plop it in there, kind of push it into the corners. And then when it proofs, it'll kind of spread out and it'll make up the difference, all those little gaps, and you'll end up just with a perfect deep dish crust. It's so delicious with sourdough every time. So we have our dough here. So this is our fully prepped dough and it's been proofing for 11 hours. So I took this out of the fridge 11 hours ago. You know it's ready to go when it's roughly doubled in size from when you put it away. Looks really good. It doesn't have that dry crust because we put a little bit of oil on top of it. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna do a dash of cornmeal on it and on our parchment paper. And we're gonna do the same with some flour. It's gonna make our life a lot easier. Now you don't have to do both. You could do one or the other. This is just the way I've been doing it. I like this way, and so I'm gonna keep doing it that way. You wanna minimize the time you're holding it. It's gonna make it more fragile and it's gonna irritate you and the dough. So you wanna get it down here and you're gonna wanna start mashing it a little bit. Not a ton. You're just gonna roughly form it to the paper. And one of the biggest advantages of the parchment paper is you can stretch it and move it around easy. If you were doing this on a plate, it would be getting stuck and doing all kinds of weird stuff. Here, you can move it around as needed. So what I'm doing is I'm just roughly getting as close to the edge as possible without going over the edge. And I'm just giving it little stretches and spins at the same time. And I know they say not to do anything with the middle, but if I feel that the middle is thick, I'll just press it down a little bit, give myself a little bit of room, and then I'll do more crust stretches. And if you're starting to get wrinkles on the parchment paper, you can transfer it to your hands and just give it subtle stretches. You don't want to do too much, like I was saying, you're gonna make it too thin. But if you did it right, you'll end up with a nice pizza dough. Everybody likes a different type of pizza sauce, and you can make your own pizza sauce. I make my own, but when you're just learning how to do the pizza, you should just go out and buy the sauce. They're all pretty good. So just your basic pizza sauce. You honestly don't want to put on too much, because a lot of people think I like the pizza sauce, let's put a bunch on. You want to start small, use the back of the spoon or the bottom of the spoon and slowly distribute it. And again, you want it to kind of look like it's not enough, because that's probably enough. Here we're doing a little bit bigger of a pizza, so I think I'm going to give it one more scoop. And we're gonna go almost all the way to the edge. Now that looks pretty good to me, but of course if you're doing your own pizza, you can do it however you like. We have our freshly shredded mozzarella. This is low moisture part skim mozzarella. We also have some shredded Parmesan and some grated Parmesan. So these two are gonna burn if you put them on top. So what I do is I put them on the bottom. And this is dealer's choice. Put on however much you think you should be putting on there. And now that you got your Parmesan on, go ahead and do the mozzarella. I like the part skim low moisture. It just makes the pizza not so soupy like a high moisture, but it also has a good fat content, so you have a little bit of oil that helps out the pizza flavor a little bit. And now you can put on whatever toppings you like, dealer's choice. So before you put the pizza in, you want to make sure that the oven is up to temperature, but also that the stone is preheated. So what we do is we take an infrared thermometer and we double check the stone. So here we're sitting at about 400, 460, 475. That's perfect. You're going to be able to get a good crispy bottom on that crust. So I think we're ready to put the pizza in. So deep dish is just a tiny bit different. You want to put a little bit of oil on it and then the cheese, because if you put the sauce directly onto the dough, it interferes with the rise while it's baking. So give it a little bit of brush. This is avocado oil, but you can use butter or whatever kind of oil you want. That was about a tablespoon, but it doesn't really matter. Then you do your cheese. It's the same part skim, low moisture mozzarella. You want to go all the way to the edge and even a little bit over the edge because it gives you that little caramelized bit on the sides. Deep dish lovers, absolutely go crazy for it. So do your cheese and then whatever toppings you want, and then the sauce goes on last. And what I like about doing deep dish is you don't need a pizza stone, you don't need a pizza peel. You just pop this in the oven at roughly the highest that it'll go. So 450, 500 degrees will do you just fine. Do that for about a half hour, 45 minutes, depending on the size, and it'll come out great. You don't need any special tools for this. And the deep dish purists, they love to do 2 stripes. I don't know that it matters, but I don't really want to upset them, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it the way they tell me to. Now it's ready to go in the oven. So we're right at the 3-minute mark, so we want to make sure that it's cooking nicely, and we want to check the bottom so it's not burning. So we're going to pop her out real quick. It's cooking pretty evenly, but it definitely has a ways to go. We're going to rotate and pop it back in. So we got the oven preheated to 500. We're going to go ahead and pop this in there for about 30 minutes. And this is a lot lower maintenance than if you're doing it out of a pizza oven. So just put it in there, forget about it for 30 minutes, and then make sure your toppings are good and cooked. Good firm crust. Just about perfect bottom. Let's try it out. Love it. So all the stars aligned and this pizza cooked a little faster than I was expecting. So about 22 minutes at 500 degrees, and it is looking pretty good in my opinion. We'll just be doing a disservice if we leave it in there any longer. But that is just about perfect. We've got the cheese burning and caramelizing on the side, toppings and everything on top, looking just about perfect. I love it. So with a deep dish, you just want to make sure it's fully cooled down. One, because you have to handle it, but two, because it's not going to come out if it's not cooled down. Just take a knife, kind of go around the edge, and I love it. It pops right out of the pan. These ones I just cut into quadrants because this is a pretty small pan. But it's tough to get these ones wrong. They end up just looking beautiful on the inside, beautiful on the outside. I love me some deep dish, especially sourdough. It's delicious. I want to leave you guys with one thing. If you saw this video and thought this is too hard, I can't do it, just remember that this bush pig with no knowledge was able to get it done, and you can do it too. Anyways, thanks for watching.